Today, I'm reacting to your Star Wars hot take. Now, honestly, this could be anything good, bad, indifferent, everything in between. Doesn't matter. I'm reacting to it. And I put this out a while ago, and you wouldn't believe some of the comments that I got. So let's go ahead and get to it. I actually think this is one of the funniest Star Wars movies. The droids and Han give more humor than people give it credit for. I'm not mad at this one. I do believe that the droids definitely give a lot of levity and humor to the Star Wars universe, especially this particular film. Han, I didn't really pick that up when I was watching it as a kid, and I can understand more of it now that I've gotten a little older. There's certain funny parts, like when he says, where did you dig up that old fossil? Stuff like that, I think is just hilarious.
Well, you said it, Chewie. Where did you dig up that old fossil?
But really, it's the droids. The droids are the one that bring this comedic timing and levity and comedy to this series and this humor. As honestly, if it wasn't for the droids, this movie would really drag. It really would. I feel like Leia is the real main character. She's leading, making decisions, and taking control while everyone else is just reacting. Okay, hold on. You might actually have a point here. I do like the fact that in this movie, and if you do realize it, she's not your typical woman in distress. Leia is a boss. She's big time. She's not afraid of Darth Vader. She's not afraid of Grand Admiral Tarkin, whatever, I can't remember his name, but that guy. I mean, when Luke comes in, she cracks a joke about him. Is like, aren't you a stormtrooper? Shouldn't you be a little taller? When Han shows up, I mean, she's giving it right back to Han. She takes the rifle at one point, starts shooting. Leia is bad ass in this movie. So you do have a point that in the beginning, it is really focused around Leia. But to be solely that Leia is only the main character, I don't know if I could say that. What I see in this movie is a trifecta of characters, an ensemble of characters, and that's who we follow the movie with. And we're seeing each of their stories combine into this moment when they're all at the Death Star. So I don't know if I could say Leia is the main character, but she's a big part of the story. I honestly think nostalgia plays a big role in how people view this movie. A lot of the love for it is tied to what it represents and how groundbreaking it was at the time. If I try to look at it purely as a modern viewer, some parts don't hit the same way. I still respect it, but I don't know if I'd call it a masterpiece without that historical context. All right, we are starting early with the disrespect here. Look, Star Wars has become what it is today because of the groundwork and the foundation that George Lucas laid. I mean, come on. We had it was the space opera. We didn't have anything like that. I mean, of course we had some movies, but there was nothing like Star Wars. And this was something that was brand new. The Force, lightsabers, nobody had ever heard of any of that stuff before, and it was absolutely groundbreaking. To call it just nostalgia and it only hits because of nostalgia, dude, I'm not feeling that at all. Without Star Wars, we wouldn't have any of this stuff that we actually are doing right now, watching Star Wars. Star Wars has been going on for well over 40 years, and it is because of this initial movie. If you're looking for something more in Star Wars and looking at this and thinking it's only good because it's groundbreaking, well, that's why it's so damn good, because it is groundbreaking. It didn't have to be knocking it out of the park, but it definitely had to lay the groundwork and be groundbreaking in order for us to continue on with the Star Wars. So to say this movie is only good because of nostalgia, I don't know. I can't agree with that here. It's freaking Star Wars. I honestly think Han Solo carries the movie. He brings a level of charisma and unpredictability that no one else really has in this film. Every time he shows up, the tone shifts and the movie feels more alive and fun. Without him, I think the story leans a little too serious and loses some of its edge. Now, this right here is going to divide some people. Okay. When I watched Star Wars when I was younger, I honestly was on track with Luke being the main character. But let me tell you, as I got older, I started to gravitate more towards Han. So I think who you feel the main character is really depends on your eyes on who you are when you get attached to Star Wars. If you were a kid, you were definitely following Luke's adventure in Star Wars. If you were older, maybe I don't know, 20s, 30s, or whenever you watch Star Wars, or maybe a late teen, 18, you were probably thinking Han Solo was the coolest dude, man. The way he sat in the bar and he had Chewbacca with him, the Millennium Falcon. No lie, Han Solo was cool because he became one of my favorites as I got older. And if you were even older than that, maybe 40s, 50s, and you had seen Alec Guinness before in other movies, and now you're seeing him in Star Wars, maybe you were following through his eyes. A little girl and a young woman watching it, you might have been following it through Leia's eyes because, as I said, Leia was badass. So I think who you see as the main character depends on your view on when you jumped into Star Wars. I feel like Luke spends most of the movie complaining about wanting to leave Tatooine instead of actually doing anything. Every time he's on screen early on, he's frustrated, impatient, and arguing with someone. I get that as part of his growth, but it makes it harder to root for him at first. On rewatch, I definitely find myself more interested in the other characters. Now, y'all coming for Luke already? Already, y'all are coming for Luke? People defend Luke. Okay, so this is crazy. Look, he is a farm boy. That's the role that he's playing. He's a farm boy, and what George Lucas was doing is he was trying to show like this guy wants more than just being on the farm because Uncle Owen freaking just has him on the farm drinking that damn blue milk all the time. And Luke knows that he's destined for more than that. He doesn't want to be sitting on a farm. So that's why he's annoyed. And so, yes, he might sound a little annoying and, doing all that kind of stuff. But look, man, what Luke was not whiny. He was ready to go. He was ready to spread his wings, and he was getting frustrated as a teenager because Uncle Owen was pushing him down, man. Ugh. Get out the way, Uncle Owen. Let this man spread his wings. You know what I'm saying? I am a big fan of Star Wars, but I can't lie. A New Hope is pretty damn boring and complete trash compared to the other Star Wars movies. Whoa, 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 whoa. Trash? Now, y'all wildin' here. I can't let that slide. Star Wars is not trash. Now, it might not be the best movie that you ever seen. It may not be Citizen Kane or the Titanic or whatever, but it ain't trash. Actually, Star Wars is so damn good, it then set up a universe of universes within universes and a galaxy that people are still talking about 40 plus years down the line. Trash? Trash? How could you be a Star Wars fan and thinking that this movie is trash? Like, I don't know what is going on, but I totally disagree with you. This is blasphemy that you even said this was trash, honestly. And I don't know, this person right here, you need to go back and watch Star Wars with a third set of eyes and actually really pay attention to this movie. This movie is not trash. And why would you even dare say something like that? But you know what? This is a hot take. This is your opinion. I'm just reacting to it. But you are wilding out here. I think the movie feels kind of small compared to later Star Wars. It mostly sticks to a handful of locations and doesn't really explore the larger galaxy. I understand that it's the first film, but going back to it after seeing everything else makes it feel more contained. It almost feels like a small story inside of a much bigger universe that we just don't see yet. All right, now we're talking about the whole galaxy. And you make a good point. It is a small story, but honestly, I think that it's meant to be that way. Look, this story is about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke. Luke and Obi-Wan didn't need to be going all over to these galaxies because then you would have lost focus of what the story was. Yes, it was on Tatooine. Yes, they were on the Millennium Falcon. Yes, they went to the Death Star. That's all it needed to be. We didn't need to go to Hoth and this planet and this planet and this planet and this planet. For what? This is how the world was for Luke. We are seeing it through Luke's eyes. So he didn't know anything. So he wouldn't need to travel anywhere because he didn't know anything. He knew Tatooine. Obi-Wan was on Tatooine. It just so happened that Han Solo was on Tatooine. So why do we really need to go anywhere else? We didn't. Now, we call it a galaxy, but that doesn't mean we have to explore the whole galaxy just to get the story. The story was a contained story, and it needed to be a contained story so that we can follow Luke's journey, because this is Luke's journey to figure out what's going on, because it's about the Skywalker saga. Now, of course, later down the line, we add more elements into the Star Wars universe, and the universe gets bigger and bigger as time goes on, but everything has to start at a finite point, and this was the beginning of everything. So I do get your point. Yes, this movie is contained. It is small compared to all the other movies, but it needed to be. I feel like the Force isn't explained enough. I get that it's supposed to be mysterious, but I still find myself wanting clearer rules. Okay, so now we're questioning the Force. Let me tell you, this is very dangerous territory, but I agree, but I don't agree. I'll tell you what I agree with. I agree with that the Force is not explained. It's not. The Force is not really explained in this movie, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It needs to be mysterious because that's what makes it so intriguing. I mean, when you seeing things later and they're moving objects and they're using lightsabers that are cutting things in half and making people change their mind just by moving their fingers. I mean, that shit is banging. I mean, that is so phenomenal that there's this power that they're harnessing. So you didn't need explanations on what the Force was. Honestly, me personally, I felt they fucked it up. The moment they started diving into the metachlorians and all that stuff with the Force and levels and all. See, we didn't need all that. We don't need to know what causes the Force and the metachlorians and all that kind of stuff. That's just way too much. Now, we can definitely understand that there are different sides of the Force, whether you are on the light side, dark side, and we've now found out there's gray Jedi or people that, kind of do a little bit of both. There's nothing wrong with that. But to do deep dive chemical parts of the Force, we didn't need to know that. I can't lie, this fight feels really stiff to me. There's barely any movement and it feels more like choreography practice than an actual battle. I understand the limitations of the time, but it still clashes with how legendary these characters are supposed to be. When you compare it to later lightsaber fights, it's hard to not notice the difference. Yeah, I hate to say it. This comment is kind of crazy, but look, I gotta agree. These guys are supposed to be at the top of their game, at the top of their game. So they're like grand, supreme Jedis. They know everything about the Force. And they ain't really moving like they do. They moving like two old geezers that are on their last leg, doing kind of like zoom, 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 zoom back and forth. It really does look very stiff. And there's not a lot of movement. Granted, Alec Guinness wasn't going to be able to move a whole lot. And I think the guy that was playing, it just wasn't going to happen. But what we've learned, especially from watching Yoda in later seasons and things like that, like Jedi's use the Force in order to move fast. And I know George Lucas has said, well, they didn't really do a lot when it came to the lightsabers because they were really focused on their Force. And nah, George, nah. You couldn't have these guys move on camera because they were old and you didn't really know what to do. When we see later movies, yo, we love seeing lightsaber fights the way they should have been. Moving, using the Force, trying to outwit the other person. That's what a lightsaber fight should be. And if you guys haven't went to, I forget the channel. Oh my gosh, there's this redone version of that Star Wars fight between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. That's how it should have been. That is off the chain. I think it's called Shards of the Past. Yes, that's what it's called, Shards of the Past. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. Actually, I did watch it on this channel. So go check that one out as well if you haven't seen it. But it's absolutely fantastic. That's how this fight should have been. What we got in the movies, I'm not going to lie. It was pretty stiff. It was pretty stiff. But I give it a pass because I love Star Wars, but I would have loved to really seen these two guys who have been fighting all these years really go at it one last time. And really use the Force, like really use the Force. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to disagree. This is a comment that a lot of people are going to go crazy about. And I'll probably get some heat in the comments too. But I must agree with you that it is a little stiff. It is slow compared to other fights. I would have loved to have seen more, but I do understand the limitations. Yeah, Alec Guinness was not. You weren't going to get his ass to move. Now, could he have gotten a stunt double? Absolutely. And he probably should have. But maybe George Lucas just didn't have enough budget to get a stunt double. But that would have been absolutely fantastic to have a stunt double, because to really see why these guys were using these swords and why they could only use these swords would have been absolutely fantastic. All right, which one of these takes was most disrespectful? I already know you guys are going to go into the comments and let people have it. Let me have it as well. Hey, it's whatever. But look, don't forget, go to my Instagram or my YouTube page. I'm always grabbing these comments, so go ahead and put your hot take on Star Wars: A New Hope. You never know, you might make it on the next video. So going ahead, get out of here.